Welcome to the Random Bites podcast, available on Spreaker.com, iTunes, Google Play, and just added to iHeartRadio. A new podcast every day featuring interviews and a unique take on the world we live in. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Random Bites. Here is your host, Alan Wayne. The Dolphins penned Jay-Cutler to a one-year, $10 million contract today, and it's driving some people absolutely nuts. Let's talk about first of all, the reasons why the Miami Dolphins, who just lost their franchise quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, to a season-ending injury, why they would go and get a guy who just about a week ago was talking about broadcasting, who was retired, a guy who was not looking to get a new gig in the NFL, had pretty much accepted that everybody hated him. I mean, just look at the Cutler on Fire memes out there, and you'll see that this guy was reviled. No, they went for Jay Cutler because of his familiarity with head coach Adam Gase's offense. Jay Cutler had one of the best seasons of his career, in fact, the best season of his career, under Gase's tutelage. So, with that being said, it makes perfect sense that they would sign Jay Cutler. Coaches are doing this all the time. They bring in their own guys. I mean, Steve Spurrier brought in half the Florida Gators for a season just to replicate the results of Florida college football on the NFL stage. It didn't work out quite well, but coaches are always bringing in their own guys, and Jay Cutler certainly is an Adam Gase guy. So, what's the problem? Well, problem is, Jay Cutler is the meh emoji quarterback of the NFL. He is the equivalent of the meh emoji. And what I mean by that is that generally, when you look at quarterbacks, they are leaders of men, right? They're guys who go out on the field and march their troops down to the end zone. And they're calling plays, barking signals, making things happen out of nothing, getting in trouble and getting out of it with Houdini-like precision, and firing passes down the field with accuracy, pinpoint accuracy. You see these guys and you think, wow, that's so amazing. Jay Cutler wasn't that type of guy. Yeah, he had a great arm. He has a great arm. Always in shape, which is pretty good considering that he's been a diabetic his whole life. But it wasn't the talent with Jay Cutler that made him such a reviled figure in Chicago, where he previously played. It was his, I guess you could say, assumed lack of leadership. It was the fact that the guy basically didn't look like he cared. You see guys like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, they get up in officials' faces, they holler at their own players, they have this fire, this passion within them. Jay Cutler kind of walked around like, meh, okay. Even when he was calling the plays, he had this dead-eyed stare. Nah. You know, he wasn't a leader of men. He was more like just kind of the slacker kid who was like, yeah, all right, I'll throw the ball. Okay, you go that way, I'll go that way. Throw the ball. So that doesn't do very well in the NFL, especially with fans who look at someone like that and go, am I supposed to be behind this guy? Am I supposed to be pushing for this guy? Am I really supposed to root for this guy? He doesn't inspire anything in me. He's just like, meh, hike, and throws the ball down the field and might get intercepted. See, his little meh attitude was fine when he was completing passes and being a stud, like in Adam Gase's offense with the Chicago Bears. But it did not fly later on when they changed coordinators and coaches, and he was perceived as weak. Now, there was a time in a playoff game where he basically stepped out because he was injured. He didn't look injured. When you're in a playoff game and you're a quarterback, it's an unwritten rule that unless a bone is protruding from your skin, that you are going to play. And even in that case, just strap the bone up, take a shot, and go back in. That's what you're supposed to do as a quarterback. It's an unspoken rule, but nonetheless, it's a rule. that is followed by the greats. And Jay Cutler was considered to be a really good quarterback at one point. He is the Chicago Bears all-time passing leader. I mean, look at the names. You have guys like Jim Harbaugh, Mike Tomczak, Jim McMahon, Eric Kramer, Rick Meyer. Okay, so they're not a franchise of quarterbacks, but Jay Cutler is still the leading passer for an NFL franchise, which that's got to say something. I mean, forget the fact that he was in basically the most freewheeling era of Bears offense, considering the team was a ground and pound team for like 50 years. Well, they consider that. Anyway, so Jay Cutler has the familiarity with Adam Gase. Looks like it's going to work out just fine. However, there's the other side of that. Because when you talk about Jay Cutler, and you talk about any opening in the NFL for a quarterback, automatically the one name that comes up is Colin Kaepernick, a quarterback that has taken his teams to a Super Bowl, that has taken a team to a championship game, and won the said championship game. He has leadership qualities, escapability, a cannon for an arm, and yet he's not on an NFL team. And Jay Cutler is. The meh emoji of quarterbacks has gotten a contract and not Colin Kaepernick. Why is that? Some assume that it is because Colin Kaepernick, due to his protest last year of kneeling during the national anthem, was not going to exactly garner many offers because the fans didn't like that Colin Kaepernick was protesting the national anthem and did not like America. If there's one thing you don't mess with, it's America. Yes, you do have the freedom to protest. You do have the freedom to come out against things. But when you sit for the national anthem, that pisses people off. I don't care who you are. That makes people mad, angry, at the very least uncomfortable. Makes owners uncomfortable. Granted, there were plenty of players who followed in this pursuit of social justice, I guess you could say. They all have teams. Why not Colin Kaepernick? Well, because as a quarterback, and as kind of the first to do it, he was kind of perceived as the ringleader. And that's the thing with not only the NFL, but life in general, office politics in general. Let's say these two guys work at an office. And they're both going for the same promotion. One of the guys has adamantly said that he is not going to collate the test or the TPS reports. He does not agree with the way they're done. He will do all other aspects of his job, but he will not collate those TPS reports. He does not like to do it, so he passes it on. There's another employee going for the same promotion who doesn't mind collating these TPS reports, does it exactly the way he's told, and furthermore is damn good at it. Now, the first employee excels at every single part of his job, even being one of the best at his job for a year or two. And yet the other guy who's more agreeable to the, I guess you could say, the nature of the game, the rules of the game, gets the position. Why? Because he's easier to work for. Companies will tell you that they want you to suggest changes. They have a little inbox for that. You write down your change on a piece of paper. You might win $50 in a drawing if your idea for improvement of the company is taken up by corporate. However, there is a catch. If you do that too much, you are viewed as a dissident. You are viewed as someone who is not going to be good for business, someone who is unhappy working for the company. And why would you want to promote somebody who is unhappy working for the company when you have this other guy who does his job adequately and won't really give you any trouble about collating those TPS reports? I know I've simplified it down to an office space kind of microcosm, which is probably confusing to some, if not most. But, however, it is the same in corporate America as it is in the NFL. If you make enough noise and you bring too much attention to yourself by breaking an unwritten rule or protesting a certain aspect of the job, which, by the way, standing for the national anthem is a part of the job. Everybody does it. All the players do it. They put their hands on their hearts. Some even sing the lyrics. It is not really enforced in the rules, but it is something that everybody does, so you're expected to do it. And you're expected to stand just like everybody else, and you're expected to salute just like everybody else and show your respect for the flag. Colin Kaepernick brought way too much of that activism to be considered to be a comfortable choice by most owners. And that is exactly why he's doing it. Now, is it right? I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. Is it the right thing that a person is basically blackballed from doing their job? Is that the right thing for social justice or for something they believe in? For staging a nonviolent protest at the beginning of a game during a point where there's no action going on and it doesn't affect the action on the field, really? That is for debate. But the NFL is a business just like any other, and it is driven by consumer want. And a lot of consumers love the American flag. And a lot of consumers love what the American flag stands for. And a lot of consumers don't like people who protest the national anthem. That's what it all breaks down to. It's not really about talent. Also, the opening for this job that Jay Cutler took was in Miami. One day, Colin Kaepernick, while giving an interview, wore a shirt with Fidel Castro on it. Castro, the Cuban dictator. 35% of Miami's population are Cuban, and not a lot of them like Fidel Castro. In fact, I'd be willing to go out on a limb and say 99% of them don't like Fidel Castro. That's why they're here, not there. So that could cause a little bit of a PR rift as far as that job goes. The owner of the Baltimore Ravens, who were desperate for a quarterback after their starter Joe Flacco went down, went out publicly and said, I listen to our fans, and our fans don't want us to sign Colin Kaepernick, and we're not going to. Because of his because of his feelings on social issues. He's way too controversial. Should that play a role? No. If everything were fair, it would be based on talent alone. And on talent, I would say Colin Kaepernick has talent. Perhaps more than Jay Cutler. He has more escapability, probably can throw a nicer deep ball, and he can get you a few extra yards on the ground if you need him, whereas Cutler's pretty stone-footed. But the familiarity with Adam Gase's offense, combined with basically the lack of want to from these Dolphins to sign Colin Kaepernick, based on the drama off the field, have led to Jay Cutler getting another NFL contract and Colin Kaepernick sitting at home protesting. I noticed there was a problem with Colin Kaepernick when many people were actually on the Kaepernick bandwagon. This was the first season he was named a starter over Alex Smith in San Francisco, and he was lighting the world on fire. There was a game played between interdivisional rivals, Seattle and San Francisco. At the post-game press conference, you saw Russell Wilson, three-piece suit, quarterback of the Seahawks, by the way, Seattle Seahawks. Three-piece suit, well-spoken, respectful to the media. Answered every question, smiled when he was supposed to. And then you have Colin Kaepernick, wearing a hoodie and Beats around his neck, Beats headphones, and answering the questions with a similar slacker drawl as you would see out of a high school kid, with no real respect towards the media or towards the moment. At that point, I said, Russell Wilson will get farther than Colin Kaepernick. Why? Because Russell Wilson, at a young age, already knew how to play the game. It wasn't about being real to Russell Wilson. It was about, this is my job, and these are my, even though they're not mandatory duties, these are my duties. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to address the media. I'm supposed to dress well. And I am supposed to act in a certain way. Whereas Colin Kaepernick could have given a flying F less to what anybody thought. Now, to a lot of people, that's attractive. Not to owners in the NFL. Not to a lot of fans. It strikes people as kind of arrogance when you don't put on the suit and don't be nice to reporters. It strikes people the wrong way. The media is as much a tool of success as the fans are. The media direct the fans. But a picture was worth 1,000 words. Russell Wilson smiling in a three-piece suit, looking polished like a new penny. Colin Kaepernick looking like he just got out of gym class. So, if there's a lesson to be learned from the Jay-Cutler signing for those people in corporate America, it is learn your craft, learn it well, get a friend at the top, and by all means, play ball. Because if you're too much of a dissident, you might find yourself out of a job like Colin Kaepernick. Thank you for listening to the Random Bites podcast. Remember to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play, and remember to look us up on iHeartRadio. Also, become a part of the radio revolution by donating on Patreon, www.patreon.com. Just look for the Random Internet Radio Show. And don't forget, you can hear the Random Internet Radio Show live every Saturday night only on Spreaker.com. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, always be random.